Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day, there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And I am so excited to have my guest on today as we continue this month of entirely doing programs focusing on AI, because she is an expert, not just, in her own mind. The rest of the world thinks she's an expert also. And she's also someone who I have been connected with on social media for many, many years, and was stunned, literally stunned, to find out I hadn't interviewed her before on the Business Power Hour. So I am so glad to remedy that. So please join me in welcoming Kim Garst to our program today. Welcome, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing great, Deb. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Well, let me tell folks just a little bit about you, and then we will jump into this. So over the past more than 30 years, Kim Garst has built not one, but seven-figure online businesses and a few six-figure online ones also. She's a go-to authority for online marketing, especially when it comes to AI marketing and social selling. Kim knows that authenticity is key, whether it's social selling or the cutting edge realm of AI-driven marketing strategies. Staying true to who you are makes all the difference. Kim's book, Will the Real You Please Stand Up, Show Up, Be Authentic, and Prosper in Social Media, is an international bestseller. It's a testament to the power of authenticity in marketing. But here's where it gets exciting. Authenticity and AI have an exciting connection, and we're definitely going to talk about that. Kim's mission is to help businesses understand how to train AI to reflect their unique voice and brand message. Imagine an AI that not only works smarter, but also resonates with your audience because it's imbued with your genuine voice. By marrying authenticity with AI capabilities, we can foster connections that are real and, more importantly, drive growth like never before. So again, Kim, welcome.
Thank you. That was an awesome welcome. I mean, an intro too.
I know. I should have put it in AI, right?
Yes, you did a really great job. So that was awesome.
Great. Well, especially since, I've never chatted with you before, tell us a little bit how it is that you got to where you are today.
Well, that is a long story, but basically, I laugh and tell people this because I'm just here by attrition. I refuse to give up, and I started 34 years ago, my very first business at my dining room table. Created my first seven-figure business from my dining room table.
Mm-hmm.
So. The evolution of online marketing and the next big thing has always been kind of like I have a sight for it. Maybe the best way to say it is I see the next big thing and I usually grab it by the tail and then I master it and then I use it to share that that knowledge back into my community so that other people embrace it and learn from it as well. So AI is that next big thing, obviously in the marketing space, and it's probably, in my experience, based on like the cycles. I'll call it cycles of things that I've seen come and go. Like when websites first came about, like everybody's like, oh, you've got to have a website or you're going to be out of business in 5 years. And then social media came along, and I heard that same deja vu message, like if you're not on social media, you're going to be out of business.
Right.
And I would just like to foreshadow that a little bit, like right now, because I feel like the people that are using AI are going to have a tremendous leg up on those who aren't. So there are so many people, so many business owners still that are, I won't say not using it, but well, there are a lot. The stats say about 3% of small business owners are actively using
Wow, 3%.
3%. And then I would say of those 3%, probably half of them are using it wrong.
That's probably me.
Yeah, or not as effectively, maybe not as effectively as they
Mm-hmm.
could. So I feel like, just from an evolution perspective
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the big cycles and
Mm-hmm.
advances in technology,
Mm-hmm.
we need to wrap our heads around this
Mm-hmm.
and figure out how to use it. You won't
Mm-hmm.
be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by someone using it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's important to stop, listen, learn,
Mm-hmm.
implement, and make your life easier at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day.
Right. Well, and it is so rapidly changing. We're recording this actually in January. This program will air in February, and by March there will be things that will be outdated,
Absolutely.
especially with AI, which is the fun and the scary part about this.
Well, one of the things about AI that the previous, like, I'll call it shifts in the technology
Mm-hmm.
space, everybody's like Web 1, Web 2, we're,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
entering Web 3. And in some cases, there's already technology that is Web 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that from a tech perspective and a business perspective, figuring out how these evolutions are going to make either I hate to use the word harm, but technically could harm you if you don't step forward into it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how's it going to keep, like, social media has evolved,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's no
Right.
longer as
Right.
effective
Mm-hmm.
as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that next evolution? And
Mm-hmm.
then how do you master the next
Mm-hmm.
thing? Marketing is always the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's which is frustrating because you learn something and you implement it and it
Right.
works and then
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't. And
Mm-hmm.
then you're like, well, crap, like,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
So I think just, getting your one going back to my original point, I kind
Mm-hmm.
of got lost there, is AI is facilitating the advancement of technology at a
Mm-hmm.
hyper accelerated
Mm-hmm.
rate.
Right.
AI took a minute to, like, get adoption,
Mm-hmm.
and people started using it, started getting results from it, but it has been spread out over a
Mm-hmm.
broad period of time in its effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
AI is speeding up that train very
Mm-hmm.
quickly because it's helping us to build the next thing
Mm-hmm.
on the daily, literally.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So it is a fast moving train,
Mm-hmm.
and you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be things that we may talk about, today that
Mm-hmm.
in a month is going to be
Right.
totally different,
Right.
or
Mm-hmm.
will have shifted.
Mm-hmm. Right. And for the people who are like, well, it's brand new. No, no, no. We've had
Um,
AI for a long time, people. For example, if you would, put a destination into your GPS and it would give you multiple ways to go. That's AI.
yeah.
It was using its intelligence to figure out, okay, there's three different ways. This one has a wreck, yada yada yada. Or even when, like when I, tell Alexa, play such and such type of music for me. But yeah, I mean, it really has been around a very long time. But in the last 4 years is when it took a huge leap forward.
Well, I think the reason most people think that it's new is
Mhm.
because when ChatGPT rolled out, it brought
Mhm.
AI into our
Right.
individual living rooms,
Every person
office, or
had access. Mhm.
absolutely. Everyone had access. In the
Mhm.
past, we engaged with AI, might not have known we did,
Mhm.
but it was a touch point in so many
Mhm.
ways in our lives. We just didn't identify it
Mhm.
as such. Oh, that's cool tech, but, like, you didn't say, "Oh,
Right.
that's
Mhm.
AI,"
Mhm.
and I think with the evolution
Mhm.
of ChatGPT and other similar tools, it has brought it into
Mhm.
our day-to-day lives,
Mhm.
and we can use it.
Mhm.
It's not been like, something, oh, like Amazon has,
Mhm.
the Alexa, they've got all that
Mhm.
back end process,
Mhm.
but we can't use that in our business, right?
No, no.
But
Mhm.
now we have the apps
Mhm.
access to
Mhm.
this, and we can use it
Right.
to affect our business
Mhm.
processes, which is cool.
Right. And I find that it's so fun to do so many different things. I mean, I started off by having it rewrite an email or a letter or something like that. And I use several different tools. And we're definitely going to talk about the tools that you like. But, I did something yesterday that was actually different than I had ever done before. I had a medical test earlier this week, got the results and went, huh?
Yeah.
And I did the bad thing. I went to Dr. Google, right? And Dr. Google just scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
And so then I went to same exact entire diagnosis, which was, like 3 sentences, put it into Chat GPT, and I said, please explain this.
Mm-hmm.
And it broke it down into each term. So this means this means this, that type of thing. And it did it in a way that I could understand. So it took out the medical jargon. And even though there was a lot of information there, I read it all and I went, oh, okay, well, that's not anything to be all that concerned about. And when we went to Orlando several months ago, I put into Chat GPT, hey, we don't like theme parks, but what could we do in Orlando? And it came up with 10 suggestions, go visit this crocodile and, all those various things. But I think that's what's, to me, fun about it is truly evolving into an entity that can really help us.
Absolutely. And, like simple things, like I'll use an example of what I find it's not just business related. In other words, you can open up your refrigerator, take a picture of the contents of your photo of your refrigerator, pop it into ChatGPT or other related tools and say, okay, give me some ideas on what I can cook for dinner. Based on what it sees in that picture, not only that, but it can give you recipes like for the fixings that you have in your refrigerator. So it's just a fascinating dynamic of all the things. Like another example, my husband's done this a couple of times where he's trying to fix something and he'll take a photo of it. He'll pop it into ChatGPT and it'll explain how to fix it. Like that's just one example. I've had my brother-in-law who is really smart when it comes to Access, Microsoft Access, but he had a situation where he couldn't figure it out. Drop it into Chat GPT, and in 5 seconds, it figured it out for him, and he no longer had to struggle. So it's such a support mechanism for you if you just figure out how to embrace it and use it. Of course, those are outside of marketing space, but the concept is it's a helping hand.
Right. And just like if it was a real person, we always have to fact check, right? When I asked for, what that medical diagnosis meant, the last sentence it had on there was, please verify this with your medical provider. And because it's pulling from the entire internet, which has right and wrong information.
Well, it's interesting when you say it's pulling from the internet. It's actually pulling from pretty much all content that's ever been created.
Right.
It's fascinating the amount of information that it has in its repertoire, right? One of the things that is a problem when it comes to AI is verification of, is this true? Like, is this, because sometimes because it does have so much information and it's processing all that information, it can mix signals and it can give you wrong and erroneous information. There's a tool out there.
It can hallucinate, as we say.
It can hallucinate, yes. One of the tools that I'm loving, I call it a Google killer because it's a tool called Perplexity.
Right.
And it does research using a variety of different touch points. It can be educational, academic papers. Obviously, it searches the internet as well. But one of the reasons that I love it is it cites the response it gives you. So it tells you where it found the information and you don't have to, like, you can just literally click on like you would in a—
What does this say?
Yes. What does it say? Is this real? Where did you get this information? That kind of stuff. So it's a great way for you to verify that the information is factual versus just accepting it at face value. Because there's been a lot of folks who've gotten in trouble with various and sundry, like, a lawyer who—
Lawyers, I think, were the biggies, where they cited case law that didn't exist.
Exactly. Yes. So there's been some of those instances. So always, like, especially if it's going to be public facing and it's, your reputation on the line kind of thing, make sure you fact check it. Tools like Perplexity will help you do that.
Right. And I actually put stuff in multiple AIs.
Yes.
And you know, whether it's, and I was working on a project one time where I went back and forth. One would write it and then I put it in the other one, and I would say and it was very interesting. It was like pitting two employees against each other, right?
Yeah.
But yes, you can always go to another AI program and say, you know, hey, is this information correct?
Yeah. Can you fact check this?
Yeah.
You know, one of the problems with that still is if it is something that is going to you're standing on, you know, you're putting out there, I still would recommend that you fact check it yourself,
Yes.
because even
Yeah,
then,
because it's going to fact check the same information that the other one did.
absolutely. So it can use that same information as fact when it might not technically be factual. So it's always good to, you know, just lay your eyes on something that you trust, you know, especially if it's like something specific.
Right.
If you're just writing a email, like, you know, responding to an email or something like that, it's not as obviously it's not as important. But anything that's like factual, like, you know, like this stat or, you know, whatever, you want to make sure you've got a reliable place that you got that information.
Right. Yeah. Anytime there's a number, you should double check it.
Yeah.
You know, and just because, yeah, it can, like I said, just like a person, we can look at the wrong information. Years ago, of course, we had one source of information. It's called Encyclopedia Britannica.
Right.
You know,
Or the library. Remember when we went to the library?
And we had the card catalog,
Yes.
right? You know, but and so we had, you know, we didn't have a lot of resources. And of course, now, like you said, it's the thing that gets me is not only is it looking at what's there, it's looking at things that other things have generated. So I mean, this is just like this big snowball that is heading downhill. And of course, the key is that we don't want to get run over by that snowball.
Right, absolutely. But I think there's ways to really stay ahead of that. I mean, there, you know, back in, oh, I don't know, think about early days of like some of the sci-fi movies that came, like Terminator,
Right.
like that's going to destroy us, like, right? Like it's going to take over.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I think AI is getting smarter faster than we ever could have predicted. And I think that for us, from a business owner perspective, the key is to realize that we still are the expert in our lane. You know, we still have to give it the instructions, the direction. It's garbage in, garbage out. So, you know, I think I see a lot of business owners who are, you know, they are focused on I'll call it singular prompts, like write me a blog post on 3 ways to do why.
And it will, but it's like,
it will. It's creating a sea of mediocre content, you know. So I'm big on marketing frameworks, you know, processing through a framework with AI versus just singular prompts. I also feel like you absolutely need to educate the prompt. You got to remember that AI is a learning platform,
right?
You know, it's got a lot of information already, but it's missing what you. You know, so you have to give it like your friend, your knowledge base. Like, you know, you have to, you know, if it's your voice, if it's the details on your offers, what's your business model? I mean, all of those things. And some of those things may be missing. You may be like, well, or you're trying to create something new. But if you give it some knowledge, it can create a more unique experience. And it can help you like brainstorm the new things as well as refine the old things.
Right.
So it can be a huge like creative partner.
Right. You know, and as you said, refining those prompts is what is so important. I had asked, so I use Sintra as one of the platforms that I use, and I had gone into, I think it was the personal development bot, right? And you know, I said, you know, I want to speak at medical conferences in Georgia, and you know, and gave it a little bit more detail about what I wanted to speak about. And I said, you know, what are 5 conferences that look interesting? And it came back with 5 conferences, right? It just poof, right? And I mean, that's part of this, is it does it a heck of a lot faster than I ever could. And I looked at them and I went, well, that's fun. I don't recognize that city. And 4 of them were not Georgia, United States. They were the country of Georgia, as in
Yeah.
over by Russia.
Yeah.
And and now if you had a more and so I went back and I said, oh, thank you very much, because I'm always very polite to it. And I said, however, I'm looking for Georgia, United States, and then it went
Yeah.
boogity boogity, and it gave me 5. But yeah, it had just never entered my mind that I needed to tell it Georgia, US.
Right. And then, furthering that same process is, okay, you need to, one, get what's the links for these
Yep.
events,
Mm-hmm.
or who is managing that
Mm-hmm.
particular event?
Mm-hmm.
Who's my point of contact for
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Who do I outreach to?
Right. Yeah.
So
What
there's
is
just
the application deadline? All of
correct.
those things.
All of
Mm-hmm.
those things that can
Mm-hmm.
like scan all
Mm-hmm.
in the past, that's been like hard to do.
Right.
Like it's
I
been
had to
hard
do it myself or have
manually.
another person do it.
Correct. Yes. So now it's just so much easier for us to lay our
Mm-hmm.
hands on all of
Mm-hmm.
these touch points,
Mm-hmm.
all the things that we might need to affect a different,
Mm-hmm.
whatever we're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
much easier.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Perplexity. What are some of the other platforms that you like?
Let's start with the bigs for just real
Mm-hmm.
quick. Obviously, ChatGPT, I
Right.
still
Anybody
feel,
who's not using
yep,
Chat GPT, even the free version, hello, wake up.
absolutely. It's still the gold standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I say it's evolving very quickly. They're
Mm-hmm.
getting a lot of backing, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
financial
Mm-hmm.
resources there. That tool, I think, will still be it's got the largest market share
Mm-hmm.
still. I think it's going to continue to be a force to be reckoned with
Mm-hmm.
for the
Mm-hmm.
foreseeable future. Um, I love Claude.ai for
Mm-hmm.
conversational content.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm sending, if I wanted to feel a little more warm and fuzzy,
Mm-hmm.
or I just feel like it does a little better job, but it does a lot of things very well, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It'll build some nifty artifacts. It does really good workbooks,
Mm-hmm.
for workshops and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. I have really good success with it for that. So love Jim, not Gemini, Claude.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love Perplexity. They're my top three,
Mm-hmm.
like from the
Mm-hmm.
big
Mm-hmm.
picture. I think long term, as Google builds out Gemini, I
Mm-hmm.
think I think one of the reasons that Gemini could become a flip to a top player,
Mm-hmm.
more awareness, is because of the ecosystem that they already
Mm-hmm.
have.
Right.
Everybody has a Gmail account,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so being able to insert AI over top of the
Mm-hmm.
existing ecosystem they have,
Mm-hmm.
it could become a
Mm-hmm.
player.
Right.
Right
Yeah. I mean,
now,
Google fails. Look at
yeah.
Google Plus, right?
Oh, right,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it may end up being a great thing, and it may
Mm-hmm.
not. We'll just have to play that one out. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's got a user base
Mm-hmm.
already.
Mm-hmm.
That if they could get them to use it, it
Mm-hmm.
goes back to 3% of people are
Mm-hmm.
actively using
Right.
AI,
Right.
or business owners.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
top tiers.
Mm-hmm.
The other things that I use on the daily, especially when it comes to on the online space,
Mm-hmm.
we are usually creating a lot of visual content.
Mm-hmm.
So I use when AI first started rolling out, Midjourney was kind of
Mm-hmm.
the gold standard.
Mm-hmm.
Midjourney is still a great tool, but it's hard for the average business owner to use.
Okay.
It's very in order to get specific outputs, like I'm very like when I do a visual output,
Mm-hmm.
I keep after it, until I get
Mm-hmm.
the look
Mm-hmm.
I'm going for. So I find that I don't have that same success with
Mm-hmm.
Midjourney, but the quality of their images is bar none
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But I do use a tool called Ideogram, and it is great for content that has text on it.
Okay.
So, like a lot of the content, like if I'm going to post a motivational quote
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. In the past, we had to find an image that kind of
Mm-hmm.
went with the quote,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the way we would do it. But now with this, you can create a very unique, seamless
Mm-hmm.
image that you can share on social media that has text overlaid on
So
it.
what was that one again? I need it in my
Yeah,
notes.
you do need it. You're going to love it. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Ideogram. IDEI, and you can go to kimgarst.com/ideogram,
Okay. Cool.
and I'll give you the link to make sure you put it
Cool.
up correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, because
So,
images I have found are one of the trickier things.
yeah.
And it can't spell. I mean, I was in Dolly, which is part of Chat GPT. I could not get it to spell Monday right.
Yeah.
Even when I said the word is spelled Monday, it wouldn't spell it right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
And
struggled with getting other visual content tools
mhm,
to actually spell the
mhm,
text correctly
mhm,
on the image.
mhm,
So ideogram, though, occasionally it messes
mhm.
up, but it's a very
Okay.
robust tool.
Mhm,
There's a few others I won't mention because
mhm.
I like to give somebody one thing that they can go do versus like
Right. Yeah,
50 things.
because there are hundreds, if not thousands. I mean,
Absolutely. They're popping up.
mhm,
Then the field is getting narrower.
mhm,
When I first started in this AI space and all the tools were coming out,
mhm.
I was probably reviewing 10, 20 tools a day, just
Whew.
new things and
Mhm,
trying to get what's the best ones for
mhm,
this and what's the
mhm,
best ones for that. And but it is the field is narrowing
mhm,
because the cream is rising to the
mhm.
top.
Right.
So if
Yeah,
you're
I
trying,
think they're probably absorbing all of these,
yes.
ooh, that one looks
Yeah.
pretty cool and we've got the money, so we're just going to buy them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen this for years. A lot of these tools are started by, I'll call it nerds, right? People
Mhm.
who have wicked smart, but they have no marketing knowledge.
Right.
So
Mhm,
they may have an amazing tool, but
mhm,
they can't get users to use
mhm,
their platform because they don't know
mhm,
how to market. So those that are of course probably to your point, absorbing some of those
mhm.
other tools to
Right.
give them a lift. But if you want to create a digital twin for
Mhm,
yourself, let's say you want to create content that is like whether it's a podcast or whether you want to create customer service videos, but
mhm,
you don't necessarily want to be the person doing the
mhm,
customer support videos, you can use a tool called HeyGen.
mm,
HeyGen creates, you can either use an avatar that they have on the platform or you
mhm,
can create an avatar of yourself.
mhm,
And it's pretty darn good.
mhm,
It's not quite 100%. Like you would
mhm.
still, I showed it to my husband. He's like, that's a little freaky.
I
Because
mean,
it's,
that is part of this. Is we look at it and we go,
yeah,
"Ugh," because they're not quite right.
yes. But I foresee that within the next 6 to 12 months, that
Mhm,
technology will be there, and it'll
mhm,
be almost
mhm,
impossible to tell
mhm.
me from a fake, my
Right.
avatar, my twin,
Mhm,
because it's just evolving so
mhm,
quickly. I mean, even since I started using HeyGen, I've seen their platform
mhm,
improve tenfold.
mhm,
But that's a way, like we're using it for a client where we've created all their customer service videos
mhm,
using an avatar.
mhm,
And the interesting part about that has been their response to it.
mhm.
So nobody reads FAQs, like, I mean,
Right. Mhm.
and
But if
so
somebody tells it to you,
yes, yes. So these videos have been very impactful
mhm,
and people are engaging with them, watching them, and getting results with
mhm,
those videos.
mhm.
So that's been fascinating.
I'm curious, do you say in each one, this is AI generated?
No, we don't.
Okay.
So interestingly enough, what we've been doing is we built personas
Mhm,
around them. So
mhm,
and since we are in a worldwide community, we've
mhm.
chosen ones that have diversity and
Okay. Right.
and maybe different accents from
Mhm,
different countries, things of
mhm,
that nature. And then we named them.
mhm,
So, and at the start of every video, they'll be like, "Hey there, my name is Zane, and
mhm,
today we're going to be talking
mhm,
about, whatever,"
mhm,
so that they have a
mhm.
connection. It
Right.
feels human,
Mhm,
but it's obviously,
mhm,
I think most people would realize that
mhm,
they are AI
mhm,
generated.
mhm,
But they're pretty good,
mhm,
and it's more engaging.
mhm,
You feel like you're talking to somebody's
mhm,
talking with you,
mhm,
and that's pretty cool.
mhm,
So that's a tool that I am loving using on the daily. If you're wanting to create content like a podcast
mhm,
without having to you just got to text a Word doc, and you
mhm,
don't want to do what Deb is doing, which
mhm,
is interviewing someone. You just want to start that podcast that
mhm,
you've been like dreaming
mhm,
about for
mhm,
years, right? But you also don't want to necessarily like schedule a time
mhm.
or do
Right.
all that back end stuff.
Mhm,
Um, 11 Labs is great because
mhm,
you can record your voice, and
mhm,
the voice functionality at 11 Labs is rich. It
mhm,
is the best voiceover AI tool
Mm-hmm.
out there
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Interestingly enough, you can also integrate that into HeyGen if you so choose to do so. So that would allow anyone to give a voice sample to 11 Labs and turn a text document into a voice
Mm-hmm.
that sounds exactly like you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is almost impossible for someone to tell.
Wow.
Because it does a really good job with inflection. Especially if the sample that you give it is, it's not polished, it's just the way you would normally talk.
Right.
It's a really good
You
job.
get an and an and a
Right.
in there, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So those are great tools again, just again for things that you might and giving you use cases for how you might use it. There are so many things. There's so many tools that like for repurposing. I love Descript's AI features because it allows you to do so many things. And for people who are technically challenged, Descript is great because if I drop in a video or an audio file into Descript, it'll populate the transcript, and all I have to do is highlight the pieces that I want to delete. And it'll cut it out of the transcript and the video and the audio.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
So it makes it for tech challenged people, it's incredible because it's a visual that you can just like, okay, I don't want this sentence in here. It has a dubbing feature. So if you've misspoke and you've said, spider instead of shadow or, whatever,
Or bad word.
or a bad word, obviously you can cut out the bad words, but it'll also take all your ums and ahs out if you want them, if you want to do that. It will take a text and convert it as well. So it does a lot of super cool things. There's so many video tools. Golly, I don't even know where to start with video tools because there's like 1,001. InVideo has a really developed platform for taking text to a video. So if you don't want, if you create, let's just say no face content, you're just like, say you're a travel agent and you want to create some content for YouTube, like top 3 places to visit in Orlando. When, if you're not the park, if you're not a park person, right?
Oh, okay.
You don't want to go into the parks. What do you do? And so it'll create the script, it'll create the visual images, and those images, by the way, are realistic. They are like locations. It'll pull. Like if it says like you said, go look at this crocodile. Wherever that location is, it'll pull those images in. You still have to have oversight on it, I think, but it does a really good first run for you, and then it's not as much of a heavy lift to create a good piece of content.
Right.
But there's tools out there that will turn your videos into smaller videos and do the text overlays. I mean, there's just so many things, so many amazing tools out there on the daily. I think for most of us that I always like to give, like, how could you use this? Like examples so that it paints the picture instead of just being, okay, well, you need to be on AI, you need to be using it. But the next thing that I think isn't the next evolution in AI is agents. Now, AI agents they're not just the next evolution. They're already out there. You can already implement them. They're like we were talking earlier before we got on about email and how cumbersome and the whole email process is.
Right. There's that little thing called spam that we're just inundated with.
Yes. And you might get 25 emails in your inbox in the morning, and one of them is something you need to pay attention to. But you can build agents that will actually monitor your inbox, reply to things that it needs to reply to, delete things, unsubscribe from things, and it learns and it's autonomous, So that's an example of something that an agent would do. And then I think every business owner absolutely 100% needs to have a bot in their ecosystem. So a bot is something that your audience can engage with in the moment of interest.
Right.
It could be one of the biggest problems that we have is, I call it speed to lead. You know, when somebody shows an interest and it takes you, by the way, when someone gets a lead online, average response time is 49 hours.
Whoa.
That is unacceptable.
Right.
And
Yeah, because
totally
I've
lost.
gone to somebody else by that point, maybe
Yeah.
several somebodies, but I gave up on the first one.
Exactly. But just imagine if you had, like we've all seen them probably on websites, right? Where there's a little
Yes.
like box
Hello.
down at
Do
the
you have
bottom.
any questions? I'm here to answer you. Yeah.
Yes. But those are what I would call out of the box
Mm-hmm.
options, you know, where you just install it on your website and it's really not like robust. You know,
Right.
it's not been
Right.
trained
It's
in
only
your,
got the content that
it's,
you've put into it.
yeah.
So you might have loaded your FAQs or something like that.
It's just basic information. So a trained bot is something that's pretty robust. It has a lot of information about you, your business, your offers, and more importantly, it can engage uniquely with each of your visitors.
Ah.
So, like when in the past, some of you may have heard of mini chat, right? Like, so there might be a social a post where, hey, if you comment, I'll send you my podcast, for example, right? You've seen Instagram stories or a post on Facebook where comment podcast below and it'll that back and forth conversation when you put in podcast or whatever the word is, that journey is exactly the same for everybody. Anybody that puts in podcast, that same thing is being sent to them. It's pre-programmed and there's no engagement really. But with a bot, the journey is unique to that individual based on how they engage with the bot. So it's more humanistic, it's a little bit more relational, and more importantly, it is speed to lead.
Right.
So people can get information about you, your offers. They can make a buying decision. They can book a call right from your bot, sometimes right from a social post. So depending on how you have it set up, you can also set up bots on your Google My Business profile. So imagine somebody is Googling you, they find you, they might see your hours, but maybe they have a question, like say you're a restaurant and they want to know if you have XYZ on your menu.
Right.
Right. They can engage with your bot right there by just clicking on.
Can I get spaghetti?
Yes. Yes. So, and that has been very effective for a lot of our clients is having the ability for somebody that is searching for a solution in the moment and them being able to get responses. That has really been helpful. So I absolutely 100% think every business owner should investigate and invest in a series of bots, depending on what the goal set is.
Right. You know, and you mentioned it, it's in the moment. You know, we all have heard we have the attention span of a gnat. And I think now it's even shorter than that. I don't know how you find out how long of attention span a gnat has, but and
well, I think it's just because it's so small.
Yes, yeah. And so, you know, if we don't get an immediate answer, we go on. You know, even if you're on somebody's website or you send an email, you make a call. I had called an attorney's office earlier this week and actually spoke to a real person. And that was on Monday. I called them a little bit ago and said, hey, haven't heard from you. And she said, well, I gave him the message. And I said, well, go kick him. You know, just because I want my stuff now.
Exactly. Imagine though, if like, let's use another example. Let's say you're a stylist and you know, you're busy all day. You can't pick up the phone,
but
right?
I need an appointment at 10 a.m. Can I get one?
So imagine if you had a bot that answered your calls and booked people's calls for you, because you get to the end of the day, you're dead off your feet. You don't want to call people back. So that means the next day, guess what? You have 2 or 3 openings.
Right.
When you could have had those slots booked. So, you know, there's just so many things. And same for like doctor's offices, when the receptionist is on the phone, somebody calls in while she's on the phone, they miss that call. What if a bot calls back and says, hey, I'm so sorry we missed your call. How can we help? You know, bots are a great way to do heavy lifting, repetitive tasks in a more humanistic way.
Right.
And then you scale it up to where it gets to a person, you know. And people are fine with this, you know. It's just a fascinating journey, but you have to decide, hey, I need this. I need to step into this. I need to figure this out. And in some cases, you need
Mhm.
to invest in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the people who are, and we've heard this for 4 years, it's going to take jobs. Yes, it is. But what it is doing is freeing up people to do something else.
Yeah, so I use that same
Mhm,
example, interestingly enough.
mhm,
So there's a major corporation out there called Klarna. You probably
mhm,
seen them because they have like a payment system. So
mhm,
anytime you go
mhm,
to and buy something like
mhm,
from an e-commerce store,
mhm, mhm,
usually you'll see Klarna.
mhm,
Well, Klarna replaced 700 customer service
mhm,
reps with a bot system.
mhm.
Now that sounds
That
awful,
sounds horrible.
right? It sounds
Mhm,
horrible.
mhm.
Well, one, I wouldn't let those 700 people go. I would have trained them as customer
Yes,
love
yes.
people, because I would have put them front facing with the
Mhm,
customers and
mhm.
loved my
Right.
customer
Because
base
at
out there.
some point, people need to
People,
talk to a person.
yes.
Mhm,
But the results of that bot was
mhm,
stunning. Like, they have, I mean, millions of dollars additional revenue has flowed in, but the customer experience has been what I found the most amazing.
mhm,
Think about it.
mhm,
When we call someplace and we get somebody in a foreign country that
mhm,
we can't understand very
mhm,
well,
mhm,
and just that language barrier, even
mhm.
though they may speak our language,
Right.
it's a language barrier.
Mhm,
But with a bot, the bot chooses it converses with
mhm,
the person who's calling in the language that they are
mhm,
speaking.
mhm,
So, like, if I call in, I'm going to get an English speaker. If somebody from India calls in, they're going to get a bot that speaks Indian to
mhm,
them, or vice versa. I mean,
mhm, mhm. Right.
any location.
Mhm,
So that has created a much richer
mhm,
experience for the
mhm.
consumer, and
Now,
the
is it gonna, if I call in, is it gonna say, now, hey, y'all, because I'm in
well,
Atlanta?
I tell it's so funny you say
Not
that because
yet, not yet.
yeah,
Okay.
not yet, but you can train your bot to speak Southern
Okay.
because I tell people I'm like I
Mhm,
speak two languages,
mhm,
English and Southern.
mhm, mhm,
So, but yeah, you can have it speak
mhm.
like more, whatever language you want
Right.
to.
So I can have it say, well, bless your heart.
Yes, you can. Yes, but some people take offense to that,
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
that is definitely one of those I learned when I moved here from Colorado. It's the tone, right? If
Yes.
I say, Kim, bless your heart, thank you so much for being on our program today, that's fine.
Uh,
If it's, well, bless your heart,
You're
no.
just exactly. Obviously, you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer, right?
Mhm, right, right. But I love that you can
Yeah.
personalize all of
Yes.
this.
Yes, you certainly can.
Hmm,
And specifically to you, your personality,
hmm,
your business details,
hmm,
you're bigger than you,
hmm,
meaning, you're not necessarily the
hmm,
face, but you have, a brand
hmm.
voice.
Right.
All of that can be like
Hmm,
programmed, I call it programmed in,
hmm,
taught
hmm,
to AI.
hmm,
And then you have a really rich output and a
hmm,
really great experience.
hmm,
And if you are like one of the problems of when I was doing social media management for brands,
hmm.
one of our biggest barriers was the voice. We
Right. Hmm,
nail the voice for the client,
hmm,
right? Now, we can like
hmm,
in an afternoon,
hmm,
and then the output is
hmm,
so much. It's like we've got clients that are like,
hmm,
wow, we're just blown
hmm.
away. How
Right.
did you do this so
Hmm,
quickly? It's
hmm,
it's it really just
hmm,
shortcuts
hmm,
and gives you the opportunity to
hmm,
do things that you might not
hmm.
have been able to do very well
Right.
before.
And for people who are going, well, there's a voice with a brand, just think about it, folks. Think about, the messaging that you get from a company. Are they very serious? Are they whimsical? I remember years ago, I had somebody who wanted to be on the podcast, and we actually couldn't have her on the podcast because she swore a lot. you know, and and I mean, that was just her.
Yeah.
And that was fine. I didn't want to stilt her by saying she couldn't do that. But what she told me was all of her clients because she did public relations. She said all of her clients are that edgy also.
Yes.
And
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I've got some friends that, they post on Facebook, and sometimes I can't share what they're doing because, it might, there's some colorful language in there. And so that's what that voice is. I did a post earlier this week on Facebook and about the weather, down here in Atlanta, and we had snow. it does not snow in Atlanta. And so I'd gone to one of the whimsical weather things and had posted, what Facebook or what that app said it was. And somebody sent me a message and they said, you need to take that down. And I went, eh? And they said, the term that is in there is a very offensive term. I had no idea. And
Right.
of course, I looked it up and went, yikes.
Yeah.
Now if I were 30, that would have probably been okay. A
Right.
60-year-old businesswoman, no,
Yeah.
that was not. And so I
Yeah.
did. I immediately deleted that. But yeah, because my person, my personal brand is helpful, funny, all those things, but not using terms that my mother would go oi at.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like Gary Vaynerchuk is
Mhm.
another
Right.
great
Yes.
example who's
Gary. Gary is a fan of colorful language.
he very much that's probably an understatement, but
Mhm.
but he has attracted a tribe of people
Right. Mhm.
to him,
Mhm.
who are just crave what he
Mhm.
knows. So
Mhm.
like, right. And so I think that's what you have to understand
Mhm.
is not only do you have that, you have
Mhm.
that, you have your
Mhm.
own unique voice,
Right. Mhm.
but you can train that into
Mhm.
AI.
Mhm.
And it's not that difficult.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. Well, your expertise is in helping people use this for marketing. And it's funny because we talk about how things change, but marketing hasn't changed. It's all about building relationships and meaningful connections. I think that's probably one of the things that people are getting hung up on with thinking about AI is, and you've really been addressing this, so I love this, but it's, it doesn't sound or look human or human created. I mean, there was a scuffle during the holidays when Coca-Cola did an AI generated commercial. Now, I thought it was a cool commercial. I saw it, but I looked at it. I mean, you knew immediately this is, and I thought, well, for the people who are throwing a fit over this, did they really think that, when they were watching Star Wars, that was actually happening? I mean,
Right.
we've always used made up images, and so how do we really make sure that we are having that human touch
Yes.
in all of what we do?
Such a great question. And I got the same question. I did a podcast interview yesterday and I got a variation of that same question. Here I am, and I've done this for years, talk about authenticity
Mm-hmm,
and,
mm-hmm,
and being transparent.
mm-hmm,
And isn't that an oxymoron when it comes to
mm-hmm.
AI? Because that's
Right.
fake and it's been
Mm-hmm,
generated. And
mm-hmm,
the way that I've bridged that gap and the way I teach to bridge the gap is a training process.
mm-hmm,
It goes back to, and I mentioned it several times, is you are still the creative director here.
right. Mm-hmm,
And you have to lead with what you're trying to
mm-hmm,
affect. And you have to give it the right information in order to get the right
mm-hmm,
output. So part of that process is training AI in your
mm-hmm,
business model,
mm-hmm,
your information,
mm-hmm,
your market research, your whatever
mm-hmm,
details you have. I have a whole framework for that.
mm-hmm,
And then the output is you're more in alignment with the way you
mm-hmm,
would engage with your
mm-hmm,
audience or in any marketing ecosystem, whether it's a flyer, whether it's an email,
mm-hmm,
whether it's a sales page
mm-hmm,
or whatever it is. But here's the thing. When you are asking it, even after it's trained,
mm-hmm,
to write an email,
mm-hmm,
for example, an average email traditionally would take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to compose.
mm-hmm,
And that's I'm going to say something you send to your list or
mm-hmm,
even a response to a client.
mm-hmm.
It takes thought and it
Right.
takes time
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah. How are
articulate
they going
what
to
you
interpret
read.
this?
So
Did they have other questions? All that stuff. Mm-hmm.
So now with the trained AI chat,
Mm-hmm.
I call it a brand speak chat
Mm-hmm.
where it's got your voice in it.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell it at a base level, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Mm-hmm.
create it? It creates it, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's up to you to look at it and
Right.
say it's good or
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Or,
good.
oh, I don't even know what that word is. So why would I have put it in an
Right.
email? Right. Mm-hmm.
You tweak
Mm-hmm.
it and make it
Mm-hmm.
yours.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you've got something that is, feels authentic to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it took you 2 minutes
Mm-hmm.
versus 30
Right.
minutes to an hour.
Right.
So that's the way that I have bridged that gap
Mm-hmm.
is it allows me to do more faster
Mm-hmm.
and most of the time better.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
than
Right.
if I
Yeah.
had
I
to
mean, that's
start
the
from,
thing, the better part. I
yeah.
look at it and go, ooh.
Right. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Uh-huh.
Or in some cases, hey, I want you to add this to it because you
Mhm.
didn't think of it.
Right.
So
Mhm.
you're still the
Mhm.
creative director here.
Mhm.
Your authenticity is still
Mhm.
needs to be injected into
Mhm.
whatever you're
Mhm.
doing. And it just allows us to do
Mhm.
things that we traditionally have not been able to do
Right.
very effectively
Mhm.
or in a timely
Right.
manner.
Right. So then it frees us up to do whatever else.
It frees us up.
Whether it's work related, you go for a walk, you take a nap, whatever, we've got more time. And that's, what is, especially for small business owners, because that's the thing we hear the most, right? I need 28 hours in my day.
Yeah.
And this
Well,
is going to help free that up.
it does. And one of the things that I find across the board is a lot of times when you have a small business, you can't, it's one thing or the other suffers,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, marketing usually suffers because that's not our
Mm-hmm.
zone of genius,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if we're a health and fitness
Mm-hmm.
coach, marketing our business, that's not
Mm-hmm.
that's not our jam, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But now with AI, we
Mm-hmm.
can make that
Mm-hmm.
easier a lift.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can write a sales page for
Mm-hmm.
your latest offer if you
Mm-hmm.
want to with
Mm-hmm.
AI. In the past, you would have
Mm-hmm.
not rolled something new out
Mm-hmm.
because there was no way you knew how
Mm-hmm.
to sell it. Like,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So now
Mm-hmm.
it affords us an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to bridge that gap
Mm-hmm.
and focus more of our
Mm-hmm.
time in places that we
Mm-hmm.
do feel in
Right.
alignment.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yet it gives us a way to market
Mm-hmm.
our products and
Mm-hmm.
services at
Mm-hmm.
an accelerated rate.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it is incredible how fast it goes.
Yes.
It's funny. I like to watch it type, right? But I'm working on rolling out a new service. And so, I've built, and one of the things I learned is I have one thread for this whole thing, rather than going back and forth and starting and all that, because it builds, right? Like you said, we're training that brain. And so I've got this one thread going. And one of the things I told it was, here are 5 websites that would be considered my competitors. Please review them and let me know what you think.
Mhm.
That's basically the entire prompt that I did. Now, it was part of a bigger prompt. And so, it knew what I was wanting to do already. But then it came back with summary, like in 30 seconds.
Right.
Summaries of every single page of that website, including what their pricing was, all of those various things. And could I have done that myself? Sure. I mean, I actually already knew what the websites were, right? But I did ask it, are there other websites? And it found some and reviewed those. But then, I said, are there common themes and terms? Because I thought, okay, when I start to develop mine, maybe I should use those same common themes and terms. But yeah, I mean, it did all of this in a minute.
Mhm.
I could have spent hours doing it. And I still, as you said, I still should probably double check some of these things, all of that. But yeah, and then I went, oh, okay, well, I can go nap. Or I can work on this other work project or whatever it was. And that for me is probably one of the absolute keys to all of this is how much time it saves.
Well, one of the things when I'm working with clients from a fractional AI
Mm-hmm,
consultant
mm-hmm,
kind of situation, and we usually look at things through three lanes. How can it save you time? How can it save you money? And how can it make you money?
mm-hmm,
And so the most people, those 3%ers, are
mm-hmm,
using AI at least at a baseline in the
mm-hmm,
productivity lane
mm-hmm,
because it's the lowest hanging fruit and we
mm-hmm.
all get it.
Right.
So, and we all
It's
need
going to
it.
save me time. Mm-hmm,
Absolutely.
mm-hmm,
And then there's some that are doing a much higher level things
mm-hmm,
and and then that also ties back into productivity
mm-hmm,
sometimes as well, or it also ties back into saving money or
mm-hmm,
making
mm-hmm,
money. So there's like different things that you can do in this ecosystem. It's just a matter of defining, like we usually look at it through the framework of um, when we're evaluating a brand's business model, what are those lanes? Like
mm-hmm,
if it's saving time, let's
mm-hmm,
look at that. Like
mm-hmm,
what are you spending your time on?
mm-hmm,
How can
mm-hmm,
AI help you with that? And I would encourage you to think this through too, if you're listening, is
mm-hmm,
to think about that. What do you spend a lot of your time on, and
mm-hmm.
can AI shave that?
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Or
same
if
with
it's something you love to do, then do it.
Correct. Or if it's like, I want to make some money with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how can
Mm-hmm.
AI help you with that? Or how can I save money with AI? So, like, some people will look at AI and they'll be like, well, let's cut jobs. If
Mm-hmm.
we can get an AI, to do XYZ over here, well, we don't need that
Mm-hmm.
receptionist,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would just challenge some people to think differently about that. So think about it. If you went into a doctor's office
Mm-hmm.
and the person at the desk could get up and come around and greet you and say, "Hey, come on over here. Let's get you a cup of coffee."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And are you
Right.
comfortable? Do
Yeah.
you
There's
need
that
anything?
personal touch still.
That
Mm-hmm.
personal touch. Can
Mm-hmm.
you imagine how much more inclined you would
Mm-hmm.
be to go back to that
Mm-hmm.
doctor? You'd feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
You'd
Mm-hmm.
feel like you got
Mm-hmm.
personalized attention and
Right.
care. You would have such a richer
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
experience. So yes, maybe you do
Mm-hmm.
put a bot on the cut
Mm-hmm.
on the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But bring that person that
Mm-hmm.
traditionally didn't have time for all
Mm-hmm.
that pay because they were
Right.
doing paperwork and
Mm-hmm.
all the other things,
Mm-hmm.
and bring them out
Mm-hmm.
and engage,
Mm-hmm.
retrain that person.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm always about, like, so many people have really given me a rash of stuff about,
Mm-hmm.
promoting AI because it's
Mm-hmm.
killing jobs.
Mm-hmm. It's
I'm
expanding them.
It's expanding them, and it's only killing your job if you're not willing to
Mm-hmm.
embrace it.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's a way for, like, for photographers, for
Mm-hmm.
example. They're like, well, you're teaching people how to create,
Mm-hmm.
saying they're never going to have a photo shoot again. I'm like, well, how about you learn how to use AI to
Mm-hmm.
make your job
Mm-hmm.
easier and
Mm-hmm.
faster and better, and create
Right.
services that
Mm-hmm.
are unique,
Mm-hmm.
that people will
Mm-hmm.
still want,
Mm-hmm.
instead of being locked in the old
Mm-hmm.
style of where your business
Mm-hmm.
model has been.
Right.
So evolve.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, everything in life is an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
this is no different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of how do we, one, use it, either use
Mm-hmm.
it, or if we feel
Mm-hmm.
threatened by it,
Right.
how do we make it our best
Mm-hmm.
buddy,
Mm-hmm. Right.
so
Yeah.
that we
I
become
mean,
valuable.
these are the people that, were using typewriters. And I used that term to somebody the other day, and they were young enough they didn't know what I was talking about. But then we went to a computer, right? And
Uh-huh.
all these things. I mean, we evolved, and if we didn't, then we did get run over.
Yeah. Yeah, you just get left behind. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's like, my stepfather really struggled with the smartphone, the
Mm-hmm.
technology.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
he just never could wrap his head
Mm-hmm.
around it because the phone on the wall was how you talked to
Yes.
somebody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Or my
And
mother could not figure out podcasts
yes.
until the day she died. She kept saying, now, what radio station do I turn to? And actually, I take that back. We got her an Alexa, and
Uh,
she learned how to say, play the most current podcast. And that was fun. But it
yeah.
took her forever. I mean,
Yeah.
years of, now,
Yeah.
what radio station do I turn to? No, Mom, it's a podcast.
Yeah, but I think, though, once we really sat down
Mm-hmm.
and showed him how to use
Right.
the phone,
Mm-hmm.
then okay, all
Oh,
right.
my mother
So
loved her Alexa.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of being open
Mm-hmm.
to the new things
Mm-hmm.
in life
Right.
and business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first step
Mm-hmm.
to any shift in our
Mm-hmm.
world is,
Mm-hmm.
let's be open to
Mm-hmm.
embracing it and exploring it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you are
Right.
going to, I hesitate to say die on the vine, but it's going
You will
to,
be left behind.
you
Mm-hmm.
will be left
Mm-hmm.
behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Right.
definitely.
Well, oh my gosh, Kim, this has been so much fun. I can't believe it's that we're the hour is up. But for people who about halfway through this program, their little brains like me shorted out and went, this sounds really good, but I'm overwhelmed. Tell us how they find you and what are the services that you provide.
Yes, absolutely. Well, basically, I've been really moving in this AI space.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, my dogs are barking, but working from home, this is just the way it
Right.
goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can find me at kimgarst.com.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of AI consulting,
Mm-hmm.
strategy sessions. We do VIP days where I just sit down with a business and
Mm-hmm.
just discern how they implement it.
Okay.
How can it matter to
Mm-hmm.
their business? We do a lot of bot work,
Mm-hmm.
for businesses, because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something all businesses need.
Mm-hmm.
And training. We've
Mm-hmm.
done implementing training processes for, if they're trying to train their team to leverage the power of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Across the board, we're pretty much
Mm-hmm.
doing it all.
Right. I love it. I love it. And there's big buttons on your website. Start here, right?
Yes, yes. Or just, send me a message on social. I'm open to having conversations and seeing if I can help.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. Well, this really has been so much fun. And I think I need to do this every year because, that whole year, there will be major changes. So it'll be so much fun to do that. But until then, what are some final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Well, I really just want everybody to understand the power that AI brings us, and to start stepping forward. If you've been reluctant, you don't exactly know how it's going to matter to you. Find somebody that you can tune into. Not everybody, because not like all things, everybody gives you overload.
Right.
But find somebody that can you can aligns with your vibe, and start learning, soaking it up, start implementing, and getting familiar with how to use AI. Because it is a game changer.
I love it. I love it. Well, I have been so much fun talking AI with Kim Garst. I'm Deb Creer. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.